first thing we need to do is go to Safari, open a new window. In Google, type Apple support. It's going to be important that we're on the right Wi-Fi, so check to make sure that you're on D-Link, 5 gigahertz. If you have a Mac and you're at home, then you should be okay. All right, we want to click on that first link that says Official Apple Support. If it doesn't take you right here, then just watch until we get to Final Cut Pro. Then click on the magnifying glass. We're going to type Resize Clips. We're going to choose the first article that comes up that says Final Cut Pro X, Resize, Move, and Rotate Clips. And that's what we want to look at for today. That's actually the assignment that we're doing for today. So we will resize, move, and rotate clips, and we're going to use all of that as with the transform effect. Can I get a volunteer to read the first paragraph? All right, Radrian, go ahead.
Transform different effect allows you to resize, move, and rotate. This effect is commonly used on a flip plate over the primary source, which becomes the background of the resize clip, which is also often used to remove clip, allowing you to reform.
All right, the most important thing here is this first sentence. The transform built-in effect allows you to do 3 things. Those 3 things are resize, move, and rotate an image. All right, so adjust the transform effect. Controls in the viewer and the viewer inspector allow you to adjust this effect. So we just identified 2 parts in Final Cut Pro. We got a viewer and a video inspector. So what I want you to do is hover on the dock, open Final Cut Pro. We're going to identify parts of this screen. So it's going to be cut at the top part. You have 2 hemispheres. There's a top hemisphere and a bottom hemisphere. The top part has 4 parts. This first part is the libraries pane. This part is called the preview pane. So this allows you to preview all of your clips. This pane is called the viewer, and this is the video inspector. What is this part called? What is this part called? Preview pane. What is this part called? The viewer. And what is this part called? Video inspector. Again, if it does not come up on Safari, remember I did say this, don't worry about it. Just make sure that you do all of the Final Cut stuff. So if I'm in Final Cut, everybody should be in Final Cut right now. All right, lastly, at the bottom hemisphere, this part is called the timeline, and this part is called your effects, well, your effects browser. All right, so what we need to do first, whenever you create a video, is create an event in a project. So click on File, New, Event, and we're going to name this event your period, which is second, or whichever period you have, then your last name. This will be your last name, not mine. I've already had a submission that had my name in it. So make sure it is your period, your last name, and then transform, and that's all one word. Second, your last name, transform. Don't click OK. After you type that, Command A. Command A is for select all, and then Command C. What is Command C for? Copy. Now we can click OK. After you create an event, then what? We need to create a project. Thank you. So File, New, Project. And then we will paste what we just copied. Click OK. So now over here in the libraries pane, you should see your event. If you click your event, you should see your project. The timeline is empty. The viewer is empty. And in the inspector, you have information of the title of the project, when it was last modified, and specs, any details. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to click on Finder. Everyone click on Finder. Click on Downloads. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to borrow somebody else's picture and a video. So every Mac has at least those on them. So what I want you to do is click on Kind. And Kind is going to put these in alphabetical order. And I want you to look for JPEG under the Kind column. Just click it. Just click Kind. And that puts them in order. And look for JPEG. These are in alphabetical order. Once you get on JPEG, I need you to find a picture that you want to use. All of them have a JPEG. All right, so once you find that JPEG, or a picture, click it and drag it to the preview pane and drop it. All right, let's go back to Finder. Make sure you follow along with me. And it doesn't matter which picture you use, just any picture. Now we're going to look for an MPEG, also known as an MP4. And then we're going to pick any one of these pictures, videos. Pick any one of these videos. And then drag it.
Excuse me, Micaiah Brown, please report to the front
So
office.
pick your MPEG and your JPEG, drag it to the preview pane, then drop it. Now I want you to click on your JPEG and drag your JPEG to the timeline. This will probably pop up saying that the video properties of the clip are not recognized. And we're going to use the settings that they give us automatically, which is going to be 1080p. Click OK. Now we want to choose our video that's in the preview pane, drag it to the timeline. So in your timeline, you should have two clips. You should have a JPEG and an MPEG. Your MPEG will more than likely have volume. Let's get rid of the volume by turning it all the way down. Next thing is, if your video is like mine, it's pretty long. So that brings us to 4 minutes. We do not want 4 minutes worth of video. So let's drag our cursor to about 20 seconds. Doesn't have to be perfect, but about 20 seconds. Command B. What does Command B do? That's your blade, so it's going to cut that clip. And then we're going to delete the excess footage. 15 is fine. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, just so I can be a little bit more precise with my work. Drag your cursor all the way to the beginning. And let's go back to Safari. Everyone should be at Safari. Now we're going to click on number 1. Click on Safari. Let's look at number 1. It says select the clip of the timeline. So we're going to select that first clip. Let's go back to Safari. Number 2, to access the transform controls, do one of the following. Choose transform from the pop-up menu in the lower left corner of the viewer. Where's the viewer? Good, it's right there. So the lower left corner of the viewer is where we can choose transform. Once we click transform, what did y'all see popped up? I'll do it again. Once I click on transform, watch it. What pops up? Blue dots. Very good. So you got blue dots in the corners, and you have blue dots that are in the middle of those corners. There's also a blue dot right here in the middle. The blue dots on the corner, if I move them, what will it do to the picture? It won't crop it. It'll make it bigger or smaller. So let's drag it in. If you drag it in, you notice that it gets smaller. It did not crop. It did not change the aspect ratio of the picture. So any corner will change the size of the image. Now let's look at the dots, the blue dots in the middle. If I move that blue dot in the middle, it's going to change the aspect ratio. It'll shrink it or stretch it. Here, same thing, stretching it, shrinking it. So it changes the aspect ratio of your picture or clip. So question, does this corner blue dot change the aspect ratio? No. Does this one change the aspect ratio? Yes. This blue dot in the middle, what do you think it does? Very good. That's going to rotate. So make sure that you know that that will be on a test. All right, so these are the functions of transforming. You could either change its position. If I click anywhere in this picture, I can change the position of this picture. I can move it left to right, up and down. Or I can rotate it. Or I can scale it up, down. All right, so those are the 3 main parts of transforming. All right, you also have the transform effect in the inspector. Let's go back to Safari. In Safari, number 3, to adjust the effect using the on-screen controls, you got blue handles. Those are the blue dots that we talked about. Make sure you know this. The blue handles at each corner, what do they do? What do they do? They adjust the image's size. The blue handles in the middle of each side, what do they do? Thank you. They change the aspect ratio of the image or the video. And then the blue handle in the center circle, what does it do? Very good, rotate. So make sure that you know that. All right, and here's a illustration. So you have your image. You should see the blue handles. The corner changes the size. The handle in the middle changes the aspect ratio. The handle in the center rotates. Anywhere in the middle changes its position. All right, let's talk about position. That's going to be the first thing. Let's go back to Final Cut Pro. Let's talk about position. Whenever we adjust the position, you have the x-axis and the y-axis. So let's think about math. What does the x-axis do? Is that horizontal or vertical?
Horizontal.
Horizontal. So if I move this up, does that move my picture to the right or the left? If I move it up, my numbers will be positive and the numbers get bigger. So does that move it to the left or to the right? To the right, very good. So if you think about your quadrants, this will push you over into quadrant 1, quadrant 4. All right, the y-axis. If I move this up, make this number larger, what will that do to my image? Will it move up or down? It should go up, very good. And that's moving us in quadrants 1 and 2. Bringing it down puts us in the negative, so that's quadrants 3 and 4. All right, so that's position. Rotate. Remember, I'll keep it simple. At 0 degrees, it's straightforward. At 90 degrees, it's going to turn. 180 degrees is going to make it upside down. 270 degrees is going to turn it the other way. And then back at 360, turns it back around. Scaling. If we put it at 100%, that's going to be the original size. The original size is 100. So if we move this up, it gets bigger. If we move it down, it gets smaller. Don't worry about anchoring right now. So just focus on position, rotation, scale. Question? What button do we press to make it what? To move up and down, it's going to be your y-axis. So you go here. What makes it go up and down? Oh, I click on the trackpad. I press the trackpad, and with my other finger, I move it up and down. So I take 2 fingers. So you click it with 1 finger, use another finger to move it up and down. Okay. All right, so what we want to do is there's 2 things I want you to do to this image that you have. I want you to move the image, and I want you to rotate the image. So before we start that, if you've been playing around with it, let's set everything to 0. So you put both positions at 0. Put your rotation at 0 and your scale at 100. All right, so position, X and Y are at 0, rotation 0, scale 100. All right, we want to put your cursor, here's your cursor. Put this at the beginning. Click on your first clip. Michael, you got that? Good job. All right, so now, when I hover my mouse over here, y'all see that diamond with the plus in the middle? What we want to do is click on those, and we're going to lock the position, lock the rotation, and lock the scale. Now I want you to drag your cursor over to about 5 seconds, and we're going to change positions. So you can either adjust the Y or adjust the X, whichever you choose is up to you. I'm going to adjust the X and push mine to the right. All right, I'm going to take my cursor back to the beginning, and we're just going to look at it and see what I just did. All right. So it just moved. Now, let's lock all of your positions again, rotation and scale. Now I want to rotate this clip. So I'm going to rotate mine to 270. I'm sorry. Before you do that, let's move the cursor to the end and then change it to 270 or whatever you want it to be. It could be 90, 45, any number you want. All right, I'll take it back to the beginning and let's see what I did. Now remember, for your image, I want to see 2 things. I want to see your image move and I want to see your image rotate. So let's see what we got. So there's the movement, and then we should see it rotate. All right, so those are the 2 things we need to see for your image. Now for your MPEG, since we're going to edit the MPEG, make sure you click it. We have the cursor at the beginning of that. Lock your position, lock rotation, lock scale, and drag all the way to the end of that MPEG, wherever it is, hopefully 15 to 20 seconds. And we're going to scale down. I scaled it all the way to 0. So let's preview it and see what it looks like. And that's it. So we moved the image, we rotated the image, and we scaled the video. And those are the 3 things we need to see. Before you upload, click on your effects or your transitions, and you can add a transition at the beginning, any transition of your choice, a transition at the end, and a transition in the middle. And we're done. Now, we're ready to share, so click on that share icon. We're going to YouTube. For the info, make sure that your information is here. So it should be your period, your last name, and then transform, which is the name of the assignment. Creator is going to be your name. For description, I actually have the description on the board. The description should read, in this video, I transformed a picture and a video clip by moving and rotating the picture and scaling the video. So that's what it should say in your description. Last thing, click on settings. You want to click here to log in. So once you click there, you'll use your Gmail account information to log into YouTube. Make sure that the privacy for this one is going to be unlisted. Unlisted. Category, education. Now, if your video is unlisted on YouTube, what does that mean? That is correct. You have to have the link to see it. Once you click next, it will begin to upload. And this will tell you when it's finished. Once it gets to 100, then give it a couple minutes, go to YouTube, open your link, copy the link, and email it to me. Do not send the link from YouTube. Send it from your email account. All right, that's the assignment that we'll have. It should take you about 20 minutes to finish it. Once you finish, make sure you email it, and then you can pass it back to the next person.